Brandon Johnson is back on television trying to convince Chicagoans that the solution to the budget is taxing the rich to solve his $1.19 billion budget deficit. He blames Donald Trump for withholding $800 million that would have gone to Chicago violence interrupters, the people who are paid to go into Chicago and convince people not to commit crime. But here's the truth. That money is being used to pay people to do jobs that their parents should be doing. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, one of these peacekeepers was recently arrested for participating in a smash and grab in downtown Chicago. The very people who are being paid to stop crime are committing the crime. Brandon Johnson's solution is not fixing the problem, it's funding it. Take a listen to this recent interview he did talking about that $800 million.
We have worked with the federal government before when it comes to coordination of getting illegal guns off the streets of Chicago, like the ATF working with our local law enforcement, but he cut the ATF budget by 30%. And so there are ways in which we can coordinate together. This is not about immigration. It's not about safety, because if it were, he would not have cut, 30% from the ATF budget. And even worse, he took over $800 million away from violence prevention.
We continue to hear Brandon Johnson mention this $800 million that's supposed to be going towards Chicago violence interrupters. But who are they and what do they really do?
Today, the governor did spend some time meeting with members of the Metropolitan Police Initiative as they run table exercises and trainings to learn how to encounter federal agents should they come across them in Chicago. We are told that means they are training for National Guard members, ICE agents, and members of any other federal agency. We have shown you in the past how they have taken their work to the street, trying to minimize teen takeovers that often pop up in the summer months. They, in fact, talked with us in May, telling us that members of their crisis response team train in classrooms for 18 weeks before they go out into the field and start talking to people. The governor again saying that he does not want to see National Guard members in Chicago, outlining his lack of communication with the administration on this issue.
The president is begging me to call him to ask him to do something that we don't want. He wants me to call him and ask him to call in National Guard to the city of Chicago. We don't want it. So that's why I'm not calling the president. I have been very clear about what we do want. What we do want is civilian law enforcement assistance.
So there you have it. You've heard it from Mayor Brandon Johnson and you've heard it from Governor J.B. Pritzker. They do not want the National Guard. They want that $800 million because they believe that if they get that $800 million, they can give it to these CVIs. These individuals, these 501c3s can task individuals to go into these neighborhoods and they can get the crime under control. So it sounds like a great plan.
This is Governor J.B. Pritzker pictured alongside a peacekeeper 6 days after this photo was taken. Court records claim this man, listed as both Keller and Kellen McMiller, was part of a violent crash and grab on Michigan Avenue that killed a young father-to-be.
Chicago police say it was a squad of 7 who shattered the Michigan Avenue storefront of Louis Vuitton and sped off with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of designer goods, killing a father on September 11th. Police say this man, listed as both Keller and Kellen McMiller, pictured here for a prior arrest, was one of the fleeing thieves. Court records show McMiller had outstanding warrants in Cook County, Florida, Wisconsin, and Indiana.
If we can't solve the problem.
Days earlier, McMiller had posed with Governor J.B. Pritzker at an event with peacekeepers. In a statement to ABC7 in response to our email asking about the picture with McMiller, Pritzker's office said in part, "We were extremely troubled to learn that this individual was arrested for his alleged involvement in this serious crime, and we expect them to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law." McMiller is charged with murder, burglary, and fugitive from justice in the deadly crash and grab on Michigan Avenue. Court records reveal an extensive and violent criminal background, including drug charges, domestic battery, armed robbery, and probation violations in Cook County. He was charged with battery against a police officer and resisting arrest in Miami-Dade County last year. A signed warrant indicated McMiller was violating supervision. Governor Pritzker's office included this photo with McMiller, which has since been scrubbed as part of a press release touting the success of the Peacekeepers program in reducing violent crime. The Peacekeepers initiative receives tens of millions of dollars in government funding each year. McMiller was working as what's called a participant in Peacekeepers with the group Public Equity.
Did you hear that? These organizations are getting tens of millions of dollars. And this is a composite of an individual who actually posed with the governor, had a huge rap sheet, and then 6 days later actually went out and participated in a smash and grab. But, I'm thinking about this. This must be a one-off. This was just a loophole in the system. This is probably, they've got a whole standard operating procedure to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Give them a chance to be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem.
Peter Cunningham works with another organization, Chicago Cred, who also receives state funding for the Peacekeepers initiative.
Do you check and see if they have an active criminal record when you bring people in to be participants?
No, we don't. We check to see if they have the relationships that would make them effective in the community. And the data clearly shows that they do.
So to be clear, there's no formal criminal vetting process?
No, we know that many of them are justice involved. If we tried to eliminate people who are justice involved, we wouldn't find the people who could actually do this work.
So you're telling me that we're giving $800 million in 1 year to these organizations, these Chicago violence interrupters, and they're not even conducting background checks on these individuals? You just saw this guy, this McMillan, he had a huge rap sheet in multiple states. And then he wasn't even wise enough to say to himself, hey, I just took a picture with the governor of the state of Illinois. Maybe I shouldn't go out here and commit any antisocial behavior or commit any crimes because, hey, my profile has been raised. I just took a picture with one of only 50 governors. And then you hear this other guy, he says, justice involved. That's another reason why people really hate the left. Just call it what it is. We don't have to dress everything up. They're not justice involved. They're criminals. They're individuals with a previous criminal history. But the fact that $800 million was spent, and you have not heard Brandon Johnson one time since this happened acknowledge this act or acknowledge this individual. You haven't heard any serious journalist push back on him when he brings up that $800 million and ask him, hey, have you tightened up your SOP? Have you put some processes in place so you don't have criminals like McMillan being a member of these CVIs? And he's not the only one. There's more than one. This is a huge red flag. We should not be giving taxpayer money, almost $1 billion to 501c3s to go into these communities and do this work. You know who should be doing this work? Their parents. If you want to help out the parents some kind of way, I'm even open to that. But this is completely ridiculous. This is just and Brandon Johnson continues to bring up this $800 million. That's why this is important. He brings this up every single time. He blames Trump for not giving Chicago this money, and we already could just look at this one case. There are others, but we could look at this one case and see that this entire program is flawed. It should be scrapped. And no, give that $800 million, hire more police officers, fund more overtime, build some more prisons, but stop giving money to criminals to go out to ask other criminals not to commit crime. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Maybe I'm wrong. Do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed, like, you can leave a hype, but most of all, let's jump down in the comments section. Brandon Johnson is going to destroy Chicago. If he's allowed to stay in this position, he should resign immediately. Yesterday, in my opinion, but I want to know yours. Thanks for hanging out this long, and I'll catch you in the next one.